Good morning, class. So today we'll talk about the kingdom fungi. We have studied the kingdom Monra as well as kingdom Protista in the previous classes. The kingdom Monra were dealing with the very much primitive type of organisms that include the bacteria. Bacteria again were divided into three: the eubacteria, that were the true bacteria, then the archibacteria, as well as the archaea. So archibacteria were those types of bacteria that were found in very extreme habitats, and this was due to their very much complex cell wall present in them that was basically made up of the peptidoglycan. The monomers of that was NAG and NAM, that were the N-acetyl glucosamine as well as the N-acetyl muramic acid. So the cell wall was the very much specific structure that was providing them the property of surviving in harsh conditions. Then comes the kingdom Protista. Protista were those that were mainly aquatic. For example, the diatoms, euglenoids. All the euglenoids were the connecting link between the living and between the animal and plants. Then we talked about the protozoans, and then today we'll start with the kingdom fungi. So what are the characteristics of this kingdom? As we all know, kingdom fungi are lying in the middle of the five kingdom classification. They are occupying the third position in this classification, so they are not very primitive and neither very advanced. So let's talk about the characteristics of this kingdom. So the fungi are a large and successful group of organisms, and they are about 1 lakh species of fungi found in the environment. They range in size from unicellular yeast to large toadstools, puffballs, and stinkhorns. So they are of variable size, as in them unicellular yeast is also present, and some very complex organisms that were the puffballs, that is a multicellular, and stinkhorns. So the size is variable. Then they are also found in the variable habitats, like they can be found in water conditions also, that is the aquatic conditions, and also the terrestrial conditions, that is the land conditions. Then these all fungi are eukaryotic and heterotrophic. Eukaryotic means they are possessing a nucleus that is composed of a nuclear membrane, and they are heterotrophic means they cannot prepare their own food and they are dependent upon the autotrophs for their food, and they obtain their food by the process of absorption rather than ingestion. So they do not have any mouth for the food intake. That's why they do not do ingestion like human beings do ingestion, that is they take the solid food inside. But in case of fungi, they absorb food from their hyphae. So now what is hyphae, I'll explain later. They are of immense importance for the essential role that they play in the biosphere. So fungi are also the decomposers. What are the decomposers now? The decomposers are those organisms that feed upon the dead and decaying matter in the environment and decompose it. So they are also known as the cleaners of the environment, because whatever the dead bodies of animals that are lying around, they feed upon those and they clean it from the environment. So that's why they are of very much importance to the biosphere. Now they are the fungi are of very much importance, as I told you. That's why they are exploited by the humans for economic as well as for medical purposes. Now we'll talk about some general characters, which includes everything, that is the mode of reproduction they perform, that what are the habitats they are found in, and what is their body made up of. Now, as I told you, fungi are the eukaryotes and they lack any chlorophyll. That's why they are heterotrophic. The body structure of fungi is unique. It is typically consists of branched and filamentous hyphae. So the body of the fungi is called as hyphae, and it is filamentous. Filamentous means it is made up of filaments, tube-like structures they are. They also form a net-like structure known as mycelium. So the hyphae is a filamentous structures which when in very much higher in number, and they keep on associating one upon another, they form a network like structures that is called the mycelium. So hyphae is the single unit of mycelium. Then the hyphae are aseptate and cenocytic or septate. Then aseptate means there is no division in the body of the fungi. Division means there is no presence of any walls. That's why they are known as aseptate. But when the division is there, the two walls are separated by a wall, then it is called as the septate condition. And xenocytic condition is the one where more than one nucleus is present. So xenocytic condition is used in case of fungi, but in case of animals, syncytial condition is used to define the presence of more than one nucleus. So their body is xenocytic, that is presence of more than one nucleus, as well as it is septate or aseptate, means there can be some division or there cannot be any division. In most of the fungi, the septa are porous and permit cytoplasmic flow from one cell to another. The septa, that is the wall that is separating the two cells of a hyphae, they can be porous. Porous means they are allowing some, they are having pores in them, the wall having pore in them. That's why one cell can have some cytoplasmic exchange with the another. This is very important characteristics. In some, the nuclei are within the rapidly growing mycelium, and also as I told you that these are having many nucleus. That's why the nuclear exchange also occurs from one cell of the hyphae to the another. The nuclei are also scattered and they are flowing through the cytoplasm. The position of the nucleus is not static, that is it is not present in only one position, but it is flowing in the cytoplasm. So within the rapidly growing mycelium of parasitic fungi, specialized hyphae called haustoria often appear. Now what is haustoria? When the mycelium is growing very rapidly, mycelium is the body of the fungi, when it is growing very rapidly, and it is a parasitic fungi. So fungi are mainly of two types, the parasitic as well as the saprophytic. That is the mode of nutrition that we will discuss later. But first you should know that what does the parasitic fungi do. The parasitic fungi grows very rapidly, and the mycelium also keeps on growing very rapidly, and because of this they develop a specialized structures called haustoria. In some fungi, they parasitize plants. So means they are feeding upon the plants for their absorption. As plants are autotrophs, then and fungi are heterotrophs. That's why some fungi keep on growing upon the plants, and these haustoria help them to stick upon the plant surface. Now these haustoria are very much complex in those fungi that are having very advanced type of parasitic mode of nutrition. That's why they penetrate these haustoria into the surface of the plant on which they are feeding upon and keep on sucking nutrition or absorbing nutrition from the plant. Then we'll discuss about the nutrition. So fungi are heterotrophic, that's why they require an organic source of carbon, nitrogen, usually in the form of amino acids, inorganic ions like potassium and magnesium. They also require some trace elements like, for example, zinc, iron, copper, as well as some other organic growth factors such as vitamins. So some fungi particularly are obligate parasites. Now you should know first the difference between obligate and facultative. So the obligate parasites means they are having strict parasitic mode of nutrition. They cannot feed upon any other thing if they are not getting the particular host for their feeding. And facultative means that they are parasite by nature, but if they are not able to get the parasite mode of nutrition, if they are not able to get their particular host, then they turn to some other mode of nutrition. So obligate means true, that if they are parasitic, they will remain parasitic, and if they are not getting the food or not getting the host, and they are not able to form their parasitic mode of nutrition, then they will die off. But this is not the case in the case of facultative, because if they are not having the parasitic mode of nutrition, they switch to some other mode of nutrition. So facultative means false and the obligate means true. So the nutrition of fungi can be described as absorptive, since they are absorbing nutrients directly from outside their bodies. This is in contrast to animals, because animals are ingesting their food and they are digesting their food inside their body, whereas the fungi are absorbing the already digested food. Now, fungi obtain their nutrients as saprotrophs, parasites, or symbionts. Now, what is the saprophytic fungi? A saprophytic fungi are those that obtain their nutrition from dead and decaying organic matter. So, these are basically the cleaners of the environment. They produce a variety of digestive enzymes to utilize a wide range of substrates. The fungi are producing a lot of enzymes so that whatever they are feeding upon, they can easily decompose that into simple substances that is easily for the body of the fungi to digest. Then fungal parasites may be facultative or obligate. I told you what is the difference between facultative and obligate. Now then we'll talk about the symbiotic mode of nutrition in fungi. So symbiotic fungi grow on other living organisms and both are mutually benefited. So symbiotic mode of nutrition is the one where when two different organisms are dependent upon one another, and one when the death of one is occurring, then the death of other one will occur on its own. That's why they are completely dependent upon each other. It is not a parasitic mode when the parasitic mode is the one on which in which only one organism is getting benefited and the other one is getting lost. It is a plus minus condition. But in the case of symbiotic condition, it is a plus plus condition when both are getting benefited. What is the symbiont now? The lichens are type of symbiont mode of nutrition in case of fungi. The lichens are a association of fungi as well as algae. So what does that do? Lichens are the symbiotic association between algae and fungi. The algal component contributes organic food from the photosynthesis. As we all know, algae are photosynthetic organisms, so they are able to produce the food, and that food is utilized by the fungi. And what does the fungal component do? The fungal component, which is protected from high light intensity, absorbs water and mineral salts. So the symbiotic association of fungus with the roots of higher plants is called mycorrhiza. Fungi is having the symbiont mode of nutrition with the two of different types. That is, one is mycorrhiza. In the case of mycorrhiza, the fungi is having association with the roots of the plant, and not all the roots, but only some roots. In those roots, the fungi is present, which are dependent on high nitrogen supplements. That is, for example, rice is a plant in the roots of which are having fungal growth, as the fungi is very much good in absorbing the nutrient from the soil. It helps the plant to grow, and whereas the plant provides nutrition to the fungi. And the lichen is the association between fungi and algae, where fungi is providing nutrition to the algae and algae is providing food to the fungi. So this was the basic difference. Now, what are the different modes of reproduction that are present in the fungi kingdom? Vegetative reproduction, asexual reproduction, as well as in some cases sexual reproduction is also present, but sexual reproduction is very rare. So we'll talk about the vegetative and asexual reproduction. So vegetative reproduction may take place by fragmentation. The fragmentation takes place in case of Mucor aspergillus. These are the fungi that carries on the process of fragmentation. Fragmentation means the body itself breaks into one or more parts, and that those are broken down themselves form a new organism. Then the fission or budding. A small fragment of the hypha detached from the parent mycelium is also developed into a new individual. So the body of the fungi is made of hypha. When the one cell of hypha breaks down, it gets developed into another fungi, and that is fragmentation. Fission is the simple splitting of a cell into two daughter cells by constriction. Constriction means the when one cell grows to a very larger in size, then it starts to get divide from the middle position, and it keeps on dividing till one cell is able to produce two different daughter cells. This is how the process of fission takes place. Budding is the production of a small outgrowth or a bud from the parent cell, and this bud keeps on feeding upon the parent cell till it is not so much advanced to grow in the environment on its own. When it is so much mature that now it can grow on its own, it gets detached from the parent body, and it acts as a new fungi. Now, what are the asexual methods of reproduction? There are very fungi mostly use their asexual means for the process of reproduction. So the most common method of asexual reproduction in fungi is the formation of spores. So spore formation is the main characteristic of a fungi. The spores vary in color, shape, and size. Reproduction by spores has the following biological advantages over the vegetative reproduction that I'll tell you. So what are the advantages that is asexual reproduction having over vegetative reproduction? Larger number of spores produced ensures that there are greater chances of survival. The spores, whenever are produced, they are always produced in very large number, and that means that the survival rate of fungi will be increased. Spores are produced several times during a season. In one season, spores can be produced in a variety of times and many in number. The relative ease of dissemination of spores facilitates the spread of fungus to new sources of the food supply. That is, they are very much light and they are having the ability to spread through a very long distance, and that's why the fungi increase their area of survival by doing this. Then the spores are more resistant as compared to the vegetative hyphae. Thus, they enable the fungus to survive during unfavorable conditions also. That is, the spores that are produced that are more resistant. The resistant means that whatever the conditions in the environment, if not favorable, then it will keep on surviving and will remain dormant. It will not perform any activity, and when it gets the favorable conditions, it starts to produce a new fungus. That's why it is more advantageous as compared to the vegetative hyphae. Then the heterokaryotic spores carry new and advantageous combinations of characteristics which may result in the establishment of offspring in new habitats. So they are heterokaryotic spores. These are dependent on another. So they carry some very much advantageous combinations of characters. So basically, this is the mode of reproduction which is responsible for some amount of variation in the case of fungi, and variations are always good as they are the raw material for the process of evolution. So according to the mode of formation, there are two main kinds of asexual spores in fungi: the sporangiospores and the conidia. So what is now the sporangiospores? Sporangiospores are produced within the sporangia. Sporangia is a structure which is present in the fungi, and they are having sporangiospores formation in them. The sporangium is a sac-like structure bounded by a membranous wall, and it may be hyphae-like or filamentous, globose, or flask-shaped. The shape varies in the case of the sporangia. In lower fungi like Pythium, the sporangiophores are usually motile and called zoospores. The sporangiophores are maybe non-motile or motile. In lower organisms, they are mostly motiles, and when the spore or the sporangiophore is motile, it is called as the zoospore. In case of the mucor or rhizopus, they are little bit higher fungi. They are non-motile and called as aplanospores. The fungal zoospores are without cell wall and possess one or two flagella. On the contrary, the aplonospores are non-motile and they are having typical cell walls around them. Because of the presence of cell walls, they are having no, and they are also having no cilia or flagella. That's why they are static and they are not moving from one place to another. But zoospores are having the flagella that helps them in the movement. The sporangiophore on liberation germinates by a germ tube to initiate the assimilatory phase of the fungus. The sporangiophore produces a germ tube. A germ tube is a when a spore is present, it is round in shape. Okay, then at some places the wall is present in very thin amount, that is almost negligible. From that point, a tube like structure arises and it contains nucleus also. This is called the germ tube, and when the conditions are not favorable, they form germ tube and produced by the method of germ tube formation. So this is the main function of sporangiophores. Now, what are conidia? Conidia are found in many different groups of fungi, especially in the Ascomycetes and Deuteromycetes. They are produced exogenously on conidiophores. Now, sporangia were produced on the sporangiophores. Conidia are present on the conidiophores. And exogenously means outside the body. The conidiophore may be simple or branched and may arise singly or erect, aerial, aseptate, branch, foot-like, or aggregate variously. They are also having different shapes and sizes. They can be aseptate, that is no division. Then they can be aerial, that is present outside the body, and maybe cylindrical, erected in position. Then what are the different types of sexual reproduction? So the fungi is mainly of four types: the Ascomycetes, Phycomycetes, Basidiomycetes, and the Deuteromycetes. So the sexual reproduction occurs in these three: the Asco, Phyco, and Basidiomycetes, but it is completely absent in Deuteromycetes. That's why it is also called as the imperfect fungi. Now, what are the different types of sexual reproduction? The first one is plasmogamy. In this plasmogamy, what happens that the protoplast of two compatible gametes or sex cells occurs. That is, the hyphae contains many cells, and among these, some are sex cells. These sex cells are compatible to each other, and whenever they are compatible, then only the fusion can occur. Uh, in this, the compatible nuclei come close to each other, and the fusion of only protoplast occurs. There is no fusion of the nucleus. That's why it is called as plasmogamy, the fusion of the protoplast. Then it is karyogamy. The next one is karyogamy. In karyogamy, the fusion of two nuclei occurs, and these two nuclei should also be compatible to each other. Whenever the word karyo comes, that is for the nucleus, and gamy means a fusion. So karyogamy means the fusion of the nucleus, and plasmogamy the fusion of the protoplast. Uh, in case of lower fungi, karyogamy occurs just after the plasmogamy. What happens in lower fungi? Whenever the plasmogamy, the fusion of protoplast occurs, just after that the process of karyogamy also occurs, because I told you in case of plasmogamy the nucleus come close to each other. But what happens in the higher fungi? In Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes, the process of karyogamy is delayed. In case of the higher fungi, the karyogamy does not occur just after the plasmogamy. The nuclei of the opposite strains get themselves arranged in pairs. This phase is of the life cycle is called dikaryophase. In the higher fungi, the two nucleus that are about to fuse, they do not fuse just after plasmogamy, but they come upon one upon each other, and uh, are seen as to be a dikaryotic phase, the presence of two nuclei. And the process by which this stage is accomplished is called as dikaryotization. The two nuclei of a dikaryon fuse to form diploid nucleus. Now, when two nuclei will fuse together in one cell, then this condition is always called a diploid nucleus, the presence of two nucleus. After the process of karyogamy, there occurs meiosis. Now, what happens in meiosis? Nuclear fusion is followed by the reduction division. In the karyogamy, already we have seen that the nuclear fusion is occurred. Now, in meiosis, the reduction division will occur, because there's we always need a haploid stage for the production of new gamete, but now we are having the diploid nucleus. That's why for uh, converting the diploid to haploid stage, meiotic division is very much essential. It is also called as a reduction division. So the compatible nuclei are brought together by one of the following sexual methods. The sexual methods that are involved in this are the planogametic copulation. In this involves the fusion of two naked gametes or the planogametes. One or both of these gametes are motile. So, in the case of planogametic copulation, the fusion of two naked gametes occurs. Naked gametes means there is no presence of cell wall, and these naked gametes are also called as the planogametes. That's why the copulation or fusion is called as the planogametic copulation. Then comes the gametangial contact. In this process, gametes are never released from the gametangia, but are transferred directly from one gametangium to the another. That is, male and female gametangia, they both come into contact, and one or more gametic nuclei migrate from the male gametangium to the female. There is always, in 95% of the cases, the male nuclei is responsible for the transfer of the gamete to the female. That's why in this also the male gametangium transfers its nuclei, not only one nuclei, sometimes more than one nuclei also transferred to the female gametangium, and the gametangia actually do not fuse or lose their identity during the course of sexual act. So in this process, the gametangia is responsible for the formation of uh, diploid nuclei or even triploid, because the uh, release of nuclei can be one or more than one. Then the process of spermatization occurs. In some advanced fungi, sex organs are completely absent, and the sexual process is accomplished by the union of minute spore-like spermatia, the male gametes. So in these, the sex organs are absent. That's why the some minute spores are present. They are called the spermatia, and these are the male gametes. And some specialized receptive hyphae are present. These are called the female gametes. So because there is no special sex organs, that's why the spermatia and the receptive hyphae, the male and female gametes, form this special type of reproduction, that is the spermatization. Then the somatogamy. In some fungi, sex organs are not all formed, but two vegetative hyphae or cells take over the sexual reproduction and fuse together. So in somatogamy, the sexual reproduction is not at all found. They do not have any sex organs. That's why they uh, fuse by the vegetative cells or vegetative hyphae. The vegetative hyphae, they only become as a sexual organ, and they both fuse together, and this process. Now we'll talk about we have completed the three types of reproduction: the vegetative reproduction, the asexual reproduction, and the various sexual reproductions. Now we'll talk about the different fungi. First is the Phycomycetes. What are the characteristics of this? We can find these in aquatic habitats. They are mostly found in the aquatic habitats and on decaying wood in moist and damp places. So these are mostly found in the aquatic condition, or if not completely aquatic, then in those conditions which are having some moisture in them. In this, the mycelium is aseptate and cenocytic. Aseptate again means that there is no division in the cell walls, and cenocytic means presence of more than one nucleus. So asexual reproduction in these takes place by zoospores. The zoospores, I told you, they are motile, or by aplanospores that are non-motile. So both these can be involved in the process of asexual reproduction in the Phycomycetes. Now, what is the example now? In this, the Rhizopus or Amucur is an example of Phycomycetes. They are cosmopolitan and saprophytic fungus. That is, cosmopolitan means they are present everywhere in the biosphere. They are living on the dead organic matter, that is, these are the decomposers. And Rhizopus occurs very frequently on the moist bread. In some cases, you must have seen a bread having some stickies and hyphae like net-like structure or growing on it, and that net-like structure is the mycelium of the fungi. So the fungi that is mostly grown on a bread is that the Rhizopus. These are also called as the bread fungi or black bread mold. Mold is a term that we mostly use for the fungi. Then the albugo, it is also a member of Phycomycetes. It is an obligate parasite. What is obligate? Again, it is a true parasite. That is, it do not switch to any other mode for its uh, nutrition. And it grows in them some intercellular spaces of the host tissues. Whenever they feed upon a host, they spread their hyphae in these or hostoria. Through these hostoria, they suck upon the nutrition, and by inserting the hostoria, they create some intracellular spaces between the cells in the host cell. It is parasitic and mainly on the members of family Cruciferae and Compositae, Amaranthinaceae and Convolvulaceae. We have talked about the different families, the family group we have learned in the very first chapter. So these are the albugo are mainly feeding upon the members of the family Cruciferae, Compositae, Amaranthinaceae and Convolvulaceae. These are the families that are having Phycomycetes as their enemy because it destroys these plants. The disease caused by this fungus is white rust or white blisters. So in these plants, the plants that belong to these families that I told you always generate a rust of white color, and this white rust is due to the presence of albugo, that is a Phycomycetes. The most common and well-known species is Albugo candida. So Albugo candida is a most common species of the member of Phycomycetes. It attacks the embers of the mustard family. And mustard family means a mustard is a plant that comes under the family Cruciferae. So it usually destroys the mustard plant and the embers of this plant. The embers are the stalk-like structures of the mustard family, and it attacks that part and it destroys it. Then comes the Ascomycetes. Ascus, the sac-like fungi. Ascus means sac. They are saprophytic decomposers as well as parasitic. And they are some members of this are also coprophilous. Now the term coprophilous means they are feeding upon the dung or the fecal matter. Some examples of the Ascomycetes are Aspergillus, Claviceps, or as well as Neurospora. Neurospora you must have learned, or I'm not sure, because Neurospora is a very important plant. It is a plant that is mostly used for the scientific studies because it is having it is easily available first of all, and it is having some very important characteristics in them. That's why for the scientific study, Neurospora is mostly used. Neurospora is usually used in the genetic work as well as the biochemical work. Then the yeast. Yeast is also a member of Ascomycetes. Anton van Leeuwenhoek in the year 1680 first described yeast. So yeast is a non-mycelial or unicellular fungi. As I told you, the structure varies from unicellular to multicellular. That's why yeast come under the category unicellular, as it is of only one cell. That's why no mycelia structures are formed. Mycelia are net-like structures formed by the hyphae, but as it is only having one cell, that's why only uh, one cell is present, no hyphae or no mycelium. They are very small, and the shape can be either spherical, oval, or longitudinal. The individual cells are colorless, but the colonies may appear white. Individual cells with one cell is present, it seems colorless, but when they are present in a very large amount, a full colony, it is appearing to be white in color, sometimes red, brown, creamy, or even yellow. The yeast reproduces by the vegetative or asexual as well as sexual methods. Both all the three methods are used by yeast for the production of its new colonies or members, that is for reproduction. Then we talk about the Basidiomycetes. It is the most common form. The most common form of this Basidiomycetes are the puffballs and the mushrooms. We all must have eaten mushroom. Mushroom is a very important crop, a very important plant, that and for the purpose of mushroom only, these fungus are being studied very widely. So the protein content in fungus is very much high, mostly in mushroom. So it is exploited mainly for the purpose of this mushroom. They grow in soil and on logs as well as tree stumps and in living plant bodies as parasites. For example, the rust and smuts are caused by this. You can see Puccinia. Puccinia is a rust in the wheat. So Vaccinia is a disease caused by these Basidiomycetes. These organisms do not have any sexual organs, and uh, the plasmogamy takes place by the fusion of two vegetative or somatic cells of different stains. What happens in plasmogamy? I told you only the fusion of the protoplasm. That's why Basidiomycetes, as they not have any sex organ, they only do the plasmogamy. They have branched and septate mycelium. Septate means the balls are present in between two different hyphae. Then we'll talk about the last, that is the Deuteromycetes. What are the Deuteromycetes? These are also called as the imperfect fungi. They comprise of all forms of these fungi in which sexual life cycle have not been discovered. It may be present, but it is not discovered yet, so it is called as the imperfect. It is a purely artificial assemblage of fungal species waiting to be included in appropriate classes. The Deuteromycetes studies have not been proved yet, and the studies are going further and further on because they are not yet placed in their definite classes that where they should be placed. Deuteromycotena are concerned as the conidial stage of Ascomycotena as well as the Basidiomycotena. So the conidia phase, which is present, conidia are the organs, asexual organs, which are present in the case of the Ascus family, that is the Ascomycetes and the Basidiomycetes. So these conidia sometimes referred to as the Deuteromycocetes conidia also. The mycelium is well developed and profusely branched and formed by septa, and septa is perforated. Perforated means these are having some pores in them for the cytoplasmic as well as nuclear exchange. The hyphae may be inter or intracellular, and the cells are multinucleate. Multinucleate condition is the cynocytic condition. The reproduction in this takes place by asexual means only, and sexual stages are not yet known. Some of these members also show the parasexuality. Parasexuality means they are not completely sexual but show some sexual features. Some members of these are saprophytes or parasites, while a large number of them are the decomposers, and they are feed upon the litter. Litter is the dead organic matter, and they also help in the mineral cycling. So the lichens and the plantae and kingdom Animalia will finish off in our next class. Then we'll start with the third chapter.